It was a big year and I worked hard, but I did not generally work more than 25 to 35 hours a week on average. The trick was to grow and to build the business, but not work 80 or 90 hours a week. The key to that, though, was to be really strategic and smart about what I'm doing, which really I kind of boiled down to three things and three phases.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He's an adult who collects cardboard with fictional animal characters on them, Pat Flynn.
I love when we bring people back on the show because we get to hear their journey since the last time they came on. And today we're speaking with Josh Hall from joshhall.co. He is a web designer and web developer. He teaches and coaches people how to create businesses as web designers. And the last time he was on, he was in episode 456, I believe it was. And he was talking about how he just turned this side gig into a full-time business. And since then, he's turned this full-time business into a 2x full-time business, meaning he doubled his revenue. And he gives us a very specific three-phase approach that he's done to do this. And there's some surprises in here too, because oftentimes when you think of doubling your business, you think of, doubling your conversions or 2xing your traffic. That's not what we're talking about today. This three-phase approach is very smart. It has notes of my book Superfans in it, which I really enjoy. And Josh and just his knowledge and his just care for wanting to help the listener, that's you, is very apparent. So make sure you stick around for this one, because this is going to be a good one. This is going to be one of those that you're going to likely need a notepad for if you're at all serious about growing your business. And he talks about online courses. We talk about memberships. We talk about bundling things and price points and all that kind of stuff. So a lot to uncover here. And a big congrats to Josh, because he's definitely made some stuff happen, and we're going to share it all with you right now. Josh, welcome back to the Smart Passive Income Podcast. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you for having me again, Pat. I'm excited for round two here, man.
Episode 456, we heard about your journey from side hustle to this life-changing business of yours. Can you remind us really quick, for those who didn't listen to that episode, what do you do?
Yeah, so now I am a web design coach. I was a freelance web designer for around 7 years before I started teaching. And then I was scaling my web design business for a few years. And then eventually I sold that in 2020 to one of my students. And I now teach full-time through my online courses and a membership as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
That's cool. Okay, so online courses and membership, that is the business right now. From a high level, how's it been doing?
2021 was awesome, Pat. I think I reached out to you and let you know kind of where I was at. And I think that's what probably prompted this talk. It was the first full year of being full-time online courses and membership. And I hit my goals. I'm extremely excited about where it's at and what I've learned. And actually, I think something that I'd love to kind of help everyone listening in this episode is how I almost doubled my student base. So the last episode we chatted on, which I think was a 456, in the Smart Passive Income. In that episode, I had just crossed 700 students. Now I'm just about to cross 1,200. So within just over a year, I've nearly doubled my students, and I've learned a lot, and I'm excited to hopefully give some value to everyone who's in a similar position.
And everybody wants to know now, well, how did you nearly double your students? How have you done that?
A lot of things that went into this. And of course, it was a big year, and I worked hard, but I did not generally work more than 25 to 35 hours a week on average. And this is the biggie. I'm a life balance enthusiast. I have two young daughters, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and a wife. Love working from home. The trick was to grow and to build the business, but not work 80 or 90 hours a week. And that's one reason I love following you, Pat, as you're a life balance enthusiast as well, I know. So really the key to that, though, was to be really strategic and smart about what I'm doing, which really I kind of boiled down to three things and three phases. Okay. Phase one is do you want them all now and then we could dive into them, or do you want me to keep everybody on suspense?
Yeah, let's do the roadmap just so we know what's coming.
Yeah, so phase one that really worked for me was to warm my students up or potential customers, really getting them engaged and primed and ready to buy. So that was phase one. And a lot of things went into that, but I'll kind of hit on the ones that worked for me. Phase two was to create an absolutely amazing first impression, which is key for digital courses, particularly when it comes to limiting refunds. You want to make that first impression awesome. So that was a big key to keeping my students engaged, keeping them really excited to finish a course and not get a refund. And the third aspect of this, the third phase, is to keep them engaged and wanting more. And I'm happy to share what I'm doing with current students to make them feel like they're just getting value over and over and over again. But more importantly, to keep them wanting more. Because I think the problem with most course creators, and we talked about this in the last episode, Pat, was that with an online course, one of the challenges is you sell it and then that's it. If there's no sort of recurring income behind that, it's a one and done, and you want to keep them coming back. So those were the three phases that looking back as I reflected in 2021, those were the three areas that really helped me grow my student base, nearly double it, and provide an awesome revenue and income for my family.
When you talk about your student base, are you talking about specifically course students or members, or how do those two things play with each other?
They are generally the same. Most of my members in my coaching community, which is my web design club, they are mostly students, although some people have, interestingly enough, more recently, some people have got coaching directly from me in that community before joining my courses, which are more one-off. So they work hand in hand. And I followed a very similar approach to what you do, Pat, with Smart Passive Income, which is to have these courses, but then have a membership aspect and a community aspect. And that's a big reason why I started that at the end of 2020 now with my membership. But yeah, they really go hand in hand very nicely.
Awesome. Well, I do want to talk about the membership, but let's go into this three-phase process first. You said 700 students. How did you warm them up, or new members up, or new students, to get them excited about coming in?
So I found for me, it really all boiled down to some good free content. But the question is, okay, free content sounds great, but what does that mean?
It could be anywhere.
Right, it could be anything. There are three main, and I still do these three main free pieces of content. Number one are tutorials and podcasts. So you were a huge help for me, Pat, in helping me start my podcast, which is still my number one converter. It's just been this was the whole episode. The last time I was on we talked about what an impact that made on my business. It's been massive. It's brought some incredible students who are serious about their business. I found that with podcasting. So that's a biggie. And then I also have a YouTube channel with tutorials around the tools that I use in web design and just basic web design business principles. But you definitely have to be careful with what type of content you create, because I've found some content is really geared for podcasts. If I want to talk about something for a half an hour or 45 minutes, it's not going to go over as well as a YouTube video. So my YouTube videos are a little more short, condensed. Sometimes they're more visual. And then the podcast is for long form content. So those two things have been the key for growing my audience. And now I'm at 170 some podcast episodes, and my YouTube channel is just surpassed 2.5 million views. So that's been going really strong.
Amazing.
But there are different types of content, but that's kind of part one in the free content.
Okay. That's great. And the thing is, with content, especially free content that you can put on these platforms, how do you know what content to create? Obviously within coding and development or any topic, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of things you can talk about and create content about. How do you decide what gets put there? Do you do any keyword research? How are you determining what free, valuable content to create?
I took a very organic approach with creating my content. I do some basic keyword research, but honestly, I was a web designer for 10 years. I know the challenges I faced. And when I actually built my audience and my online brand, all I did was I created tutorials and videos and content about the questions that I wish somebody would have shared with me when I was going through my journey. So it was pretty easy and very organic. And actually, I didn't do fancy keyword research or anything in the beginning. I simply just posted videos about what I thought would help me. And they did. They resonated with a lot of people. And that's how I built my audience up. And then when I started doing courses, I kind of had a YouTube channel and audience already there to sell courses too. But as far as the initial free content, that first touch, for me, it's mainly podcasts and video tutorials on YouTube. But there's a layer back to this, which is a little more in-depth training, because these are just surfacey pieces of content. Well, I like to call these breadcrumbs. And then the full meal, of course, is a course. But there's kind of a layer in between these breadcrumbs and what I like to maybe consider an appetizer. And the next level back is a webinar or a masterclass or something that's a little more in-depth than a tutorial and visual. Those two things combined have been key for free content for me.
Okay, so I was going to ask, how do you get those who are watching or listening to this free content to then come into the course? Can you talk about that process and how you go about creating these appetizers?
So good news is you can definitely get people, I've found, to sign up for courses with just some small free content. If you do enough of it and it's consistent, you can really build trust and authority. And I did that before I did any webinars or any master classes or anything like that. I just had tutorials and podcasts, and then I would mention my courses. I would always have some sort of upsell to a course, or I would have a promo or a special to be able to get into a course after watching a tutorial. But I found this need to where, again, with this, since we're sticking with the food description here, those are kind of the breadcrumbs, but I wanted to give people a little more to further build that trust and authority. And thanks to you, Pat, going through your webinar course, that was a game changer for me. And I just want to say this publicly, for being really confident with creating master classes and webinars, which have been a big time boost. That's actually one of the top contributors to nearly doubling my course students in 2021, was doing these master classes and webinars that people will sign up for. And the really cool thing about having some sort of content approach for webinars and master classes is you capture an email list, or you capture an email in your email list. So the only problem with free tutorials and podcasts is you don't quite know who's watching them. I mean, you get some demographics, but they're not in your email. Well, when somebody signs up for a cheat sheet or a masterclass or a premium type of appetizer, teaser before a course, that's when it became really, really powerful for me. So that was kind of the second part of that equation, to really make them feel comfortable and warmed up before investing in an actual course.
How do you know what to create a webinar or a masterclass about?
So organically, I just kind of know as a web designer for 10 years what the biggest pain points are. But a lot of times, since I have an audience, they're letting me know what type of questions they have. Oh, perfect segue, Pat. That's a perfect segue to the kind of last piece of this first phase, which are live streams. Took a lot of inspiration from you, as I do in all aspects of my business. Obviously, you know a lot about going live. And what's interesting is I got comfortable doing live streams in my coaching community because I was doing that once a week. And then I thought, why don't I do this for my students? Similar to what you do with students having office hours. I don't do them once a week right now, but I do them at least once a month. And so I got more and more comfortable going live. And this will answer that question about the type of content to produce. I just recently, over the past probably 4 or 5 months, started going live on YouTube. And going live is really interesting because you would think it'd be so much work, but I've actually found going live to be the least amount of work compared to a podcast episode or tutorials, because you just go live and you just answer questions. And those questions will come organically when you start to open up. And I found a lot of the people who join my live streams, they don't even know they had a question about something, but once they hear somebody else ask it, then they're like, oh yeah, they're talking about getting content from clients. I have a question about this as well. And then that is actually what often prompts me to see these similar type of questions. And then I know, okay, these are the type of, areas and categories that I'm going to create content on. And the live streams have been a biggie because they ask their questions. And then if it's repeated, I know if I get the same question 2 or 3 times, you best believe I'm going to make a podcast out of it, or I'm going to do a YouTube video of it, something visual. And that's been kind of my formula for knowing how to figure out what content to create in this first warming up phase.
Love it. So to recap what we've spoken about so far, the podcast and YouTube kind of working in tandem with each other, the YouTube being for more shorter, but more visual specific tutorials, which obviously matter a lot to the people who are within your community and who are interested in coding and web development. And then the podcast, likely more storytelling, a lot more conversation. Do you have guests come on the podcast, or is it just you?
I do. And I would definitely recommend, if anyone's going to check out my podcast, go to episode 100 because it features a very good friend of mine, Pat Flynn, on that episode. So I do have more entrepreneurial folks as well, because what I found also, this is a big distinction, and hopefully this is helpful for somebody who is doing technical based content versus just strategy or business content. I tend to keep more business and entrepreneurial type of subjects on my podcast, Whereas my YouTube channel was a little more technical. That's more visual. That's more like to the point. For example, I just released a video on Google Analytics, a quick tutorial. Not a great piece of content for a podcast because you need to see what's going on. So that's how I decipher those two. And yeah, to have folks like yourself, I have awesome entrepreneurs on this show, and then a lot of web design business owners and people who are in the game. So that's kind of how I differentiate, those two.
Gotcha. Okay. And then within those channels, YouTube specifically, going live, that gives you ideas in terms of what people are asking about. They ask about the same kinds of things. Light bulb goes off. You say, hey, I'm going to create like an actual class or a master class, or even it might be as simple as a PDF. You had mentioned like a lead magnet or something, a cheat sheet, if you will, to just answer that question, which brings people onto an email list. And then on that email list, maybe they're getting access to then a webinar where they get to learn from you specifically. Is that where phase 2 comes in as far as the first impression that you spoke about?
Yeah.
Phase 1 was sort of warm people up. Phase 2, create a great first impression. Is that moment, like during the webinar and such?
Yep. This all segues because phase 2 is really when they actually become a student or an actual paying customer. There is one thing I would love to point out though, Pat, before we talk about them actually purchasing. Recently, I heard about the 3 C's of sales, and I wish I knew who this was attributed to, because I'd love to give the author proper credit. But sure. The 3 C's of sales that have really just stuck out to me are connect, converse, and then convert. So what I struggled with, and I think what a lot of people in business struggle with, is you connect and then you immediately want to convert. So it's like, hey, I'm Josh. This is what I do. Buy my thing. And this is true in networking. This is true on online sales, whatever it is. That middle piece of conversing before converting is crucial. And really everything we've talked about so far, as far as tutorials, podcast episodes, webinars, and master classes, lives, these are all in that converting and connecting phase conversing before converting. So it's really, really important. I would highly recommend everybody really think about how you can converse with your audience. And sometimes this is an actual conversation, like a discovery call or a sales call. But for digital course creators and entrepreneurs who are doing more content-based stuff, you really do have to decide, what am I going to create in that converse middle, really, really important middle piece, in order to warm them up, build that trust authority, and then get them ready for phase 2, which is actually, buy something.
Awesome. That's great. And then when it comes to the sales process of your course, I watch one of your webinars or master classes. What's the sales sequence like? Do you have any scarcity or urgency baked into a decision?
So I do tend to get sales that trickle in on a weekly basis is nice, but for the biggest sales periods of mine, they come from generally a webinar where there is urgency and time sensitivity. This is a biggie. You teach this in your webinar course. I hope it's cool for me to say this.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, you're only promoting it, so thank you.
Well, I didn't really understand the importance of urgency until I went through that course and saw how powerful an actual webinar with like an offer that ends. It's really, really important. And I've actually experimented with both, and I still do. Just to kind of test the waters and see what works. I do have some evergreen on-demand master classes that people can sign up for. And again, sales will trickle in because there's just an offer for a discount for courses and they can buy whenever. But I've always got the biggest jump in sales when I have some sort of urgency. And I don't do like site-wide sales often. But when I do, I always get a massive influx of revenue in those periods. But I try not to do that too often. Black Friday was massive for me this year. But other than that, I'm really trying to go the webinar and masterclass route with time-sensitive deals rather than sales for a lot of reasons. But yeah, the scarcity and the urgency is huge for each one of those. And again, sales do come in for all of my courses. But I think what we'll talk about next will kind of show how I've been able to keep sales a little more consistent through the next couple of phases.
And before we get there, in terms of emails that are sent out during those sequences leading up to the end of a sale or a deal, how many emails are you sending? Are you sending 1 per day, 10 per day? Give us a little insight on sort of the sequencing of emails there.
It's definitely different between a webinar offer and an actual sale period. If it's a sale period like a Black Friday, I generally have my sales go about a week to 10 days. I don't like them to go too much longer. But at the same time, you do want to give people a chance to see the sale and get to it if they happen to be on vacation or something like that. So what I'll do is I'll do an email for when the sale starts. I always get an influx of sales then. And then I think this is pretty common for all digital course creators. You generally get the most sales the last day or the final call for an email sale. So I'll generally do 4 to 5 for a sale period. I'll do like one in the beginning and then like 3 final ones. I'll give them like a 72 hours, like heads up in a couple of days, this is over. And then I'll do 2 or 3, like maybe a 24-hour, a 12-hour, and then a 4-hour like last call kind of deal. That's my typical approach for sales periods. But again, those are few and far between. So for webinars, it's similar, depending if it's automated, like an automated email sequence, but generally the same amount. Like after a webinar, you'll generally have maybe 7 days or so to make that purchase official, because I want to give people a chance to watch the replay too. If somebody signs up for a webinar, they can't watch it live. I did this with you, Pat, so this worked on me as a customer of yours because I watched your webinar and I went through that. I couldn't make it live, so I watched the replay, and then you had an offer for your webinar course, and that's exactly what I did. So that's the model that has really worked for me as well when it comes to these master classes and webinar. And I guess it would be worthwhile maybe talking about the difference, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, Pat, but I view master classes as often just on demand that can always be watched, and you might put them behind tutorials or anything like that. Whereas a webinar is a little more personal. It's live. And I think having a mix of the two has really helped me, at least. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you view that the same as far as a masterclass and a webinar?
Yeah, I mean, to me, those are interchangeable words. I think it depends on who you're asking, obviously, because I have called webinars masterclasses, and I've called those pre-recorded ones webinars. They're just pre-recorded webinars. So, as far as definition, it's kind of up for grabs, but I definitely think that pre-recorded stuff that's in an evergreen sequence works really, really well, especially if it's with relation to where people are coming from and the specific problems that you're solving and how quickly you can solve that. And then also the webinars are great because they have that live aspect, the live ones that you can answer questions. People often go, how do I know this is not recorded? And then I say, hey, Jim, I'm reading your comment. How do I know it's not recorded? Does that prove it? And people get really flipped out that, okay, you're here live. Cool. Let's learn together. And it feels like a classroom. And if there's value, obviously, and like I teach in the webinar course, it leads into that sale nicely. It could be a win for everybody, which is really cool.
And the last thing I want to say about that in regards to like webinar master classes versus live stuff, I did a YouTube live and I looked at the metrics because it was shortly after one of my sale periods. And I use MailChimp. I had that integrated with my website so I can see the revenue and stuff. I ended up making almost 3 times as much off of a live stream email sequence than I did from a sale. So that showed me the power of going live, because when I went live on YouTube, I answered these questions, and I'll never forget, like, not an hour after that live stream, I had a bunch of sales come through, and I remember all the people live. So I really want to encourage people to think about going live, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's more, it doesn't have to be super professional. It could be live on Instagram or wherever you are on Facebook, but there is some serious power in going live. It really builds trust and authority and likability. I dare say almost more than anything else, because it's raw. You can only, you can't pre-plan lives. It's off the cuff. You answer questions. And if I ever don't know an answer, I always just let people know I'm not sure, but I'll look into it and I'll post it on the replay or something. So that's been huge for all that first phase. Yeah.
Amazing. Quick question that just came to mind is, are you running any ads to support your sales in any way?
Yes, I do have ads on my YouTube channel, but I don't have sponsors or ads for my podcast. That is completely organic. What pays for the podcast are my courses. So I don't make a ton on ads on YouTube, but being that I do have 2.5 million views now, a couple of years ago, I was like, I should probably turn ads on. It's a nice little.
Okay, so there's AdSense revenue from YouTube.
It's AdSense. But I'm not currently. Stuff. Yeah, not right now.
And are you yourself running ads for promotion of your courses at all?
I'm actually doing ads more so for my master classes now. Particularly for a cold audience. I really don't like to approach a cold audience with an actual product. And some of my courses, Pat, are $300, $500. I have all my courses in a bundle, which is $1,500. So I don't want to bring that to a cold audience. So this is one reason I'm really pushing this free content, these master classes and webinars that are free. So I feel totally fine doing a Facebook ad for a free master class because it's free. Whereas I don't want to be like, hey, I'm Josh, pay me $300 right now. So that's one thing that's really helped me in regards to ads, but I don't do too many ads. I still mainly go with an organic approach. And I love that. I honestly love that.
Cool. Okay. So let's talk about after a person joins your course. You had mentioned that we can keep them in and get them not just to finish the course, but potentially want more. How do we do that?
Yeah, so this is kind of a two-part. So this is part 2 of 3. Well, I know we took a while on the first one, so I'll try to expedite this one. But great. When people join a course, what I found is the number one thing is to give them an absolutely amazing first impression.
Oh, so onboarding after payment is the second phase. Okay, yes, I've gotten confused because I had asked earlier about the first impression that a person gets before they get in the course, which is the webinar or masterclass. But, we're talking about the sale is not the end. In fact, that's the beginning.
That's well said. The sale is not the end. Gosh, that was great, Pat. I'm going to use that quote.
You can use it.
It's not the end. It's the beginning. Because you make a first impression with free content, but you have a chance to give a little more of a controlled first impression when somebody is a customer. You can do this with an email sequence. This is a biggie for me. I last year integrated I think I've got 5 or 6 emails that once somebody becomes a student, they automatically go to them every day for a few days. And then a week later, one comes in and they basically just welcome them in and say, here's some other free content that I want to make sure you know about, just in case someone doesn't know. I have a podcast or a YouTube channel.
Sure.
I let them know about that. I have a video on how to get the most out of a course, so people actually finish it and go through it. So that's a part of the sequence. I have a couple upsells in there to make sure they know once they become a student, they get a special student discount, which we'll talk about in a little bit, so they can use that on additional courses. I have a fun video that's kind of a behind the scenes of me actually creating a course. Like I take people on this little journey of a 10-day journey from my home office to coffee shops and hanging out with my family, walking my dog, just my journey and what my day looks like in creating a course. So those are all in an email sequence, but this is probably the number one thing I'm most excited about to talk about in this episode. And this is the number one thing that has increased conversions and increase this amazing first impression with new students. And that is a personal video. Now, this is tough to do at scale. Like at your level, Pat, I'm sure I don't see how it would be possible for you to send a personal video to every new student. But at my level, I'm getting generally 10 to 20 new students a week on average. On sale periods, I might have them backed up, but I have made this a weekly part of my routine. Every week, every Friday now, I send out personal welcome videos to new students. So if a student has already been one for a while and they buy a new course, I don't send them a video just because they're already a student. But to new students, I do this. And I can't tell you, Pat, how big this has been with making this massive first impression, because I guess I would pose this question to everybody listening or watching right now. When's the last time you signed up for a course and the instructor sent you a personal video saying, welcome in, great to have you, here are some resources? I guarantee it's very unlikely. I've never had it happen to me. And again, that's not a slight on you, Pat, or any other course creators.
Until it was there were too many students.
So too many students. So what I would say is my challenge would be to do it until you can't do it anymore. And again, at this level, 10 to 20 a week on average is totally fine for me to manage that. And these aren't long videos. These videos are generally 45 seconds to a minute. I just have them banked up. And if you joined a course, I'd say, hey, Pat, just wanted to pop in and say, welcome to the course. Awesome to have you in. I wanted to make sure you knew about your student discount. If you have any questions about additional courses, let me know. I'm really excited to be on this journey with you in web design. That's a very quick version of what I send out. And the responses I get, though, are incredible. Like some people will reach out and they're just beside themselves that I would take the time for them to do that. Some people will say, I've been following you for years. For you just to say my name is like, it just gave me a jolt. It's incredible. So it's really, really cool. And there are some times where I'm like, oh man, I've got like 25 videos backed up. Do I need to do this? I really feel like doing this. But every time I do it, I leave feeling like I'm so glad I did this. It makes such a big impact. And again, going back to what I said earlier, if you have a refund policy, you want to do everything you can to limit that. And by creating an awesome first impression with a personal video, it's one of the guaranteed ways to lower your refund rates, because suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, Josh sent me a video. Now maybe I really do want to jump on this course if I had planned on sitting on it. And if they build that trust and likability, you're way less likely going to get those refunds coming in. So that's been huge for retaining, the students, and then really building that strong relationship as a customer.
How are you recording and sending these videos? Do you have any systems in place to make this easier? Because it could be something that I could imagine that if you turn on your point and shoot or DSLR camera, then you have to unload that, pop it into your computer, you get the person's email address, upload it to Dropbox. I mean, there's a lot of other things to do. How are you making this easy and systematic?
2 parts to this. I use Loom for recording the video. If anyone has not checked out Loom, it's awesome. The free version is great. I have the pro version, which has some fancy features to it, but usually the free version is fine. I'll record a Loom, and then I just write a little note as the title that's like personal video to Amy from Josh. And then I have an email template that I have saved, and all I'll do is switch out the name in those. So I could do one, like, let's say 10 videos, that will take me less than a half an hour. If it's 20 plus, it will take less than an hour usually, which again, sounds like it could be some work, but it beats planning out ads and some of these other marketing aspects when you can just make an awesome first impression. And for anyone who is doing service type work, I did this as a web designer later on in my career. Once I landed a project, I sent my customer a personal video, and it worked for them. So I was like, by golly, if it worked for me as a web design service provider, it will definitely work as a course creator. It's just, you do it more at scale as a digital creator, but I can't recommend that enough. And then once I do that, they're already triggered with that email sequence that follows up. And that formula has just been gold for me, for sure.
That's awesome. I know there's some other tools out there similar. Loom is a great tool. We use it on our team. It integrates with Circle and all this great stuff too. I've used Bonjoro quite often, and there's another one called BombBomb that I know some other people have used. Anyway, there's tools out there to make this easy, because it can sound like a burden, but again, the first impression being, wow, I just spent this money and already I'm getting a personalized video, like, wow, I must have spent my money in the right place. So this reduces your churn or refunds, but also could lead to other things, right? And like you said, the customers that you have are often buying new things and other things. How are you helping them through the course and then into something else?
Yeah, the email sequence for that has been key, because they'll often go through the course, and then every few days they'll be getting that email sequence that I had set up for them. So it just keeps me in their ear. And I will say too, I did want to mention this with the welcome videos, the personal video. It does not have to be fancy. I've done them. My wife would be in Target. I'd be in our van, and the girls would be in the back, and I would just use my phone and use the Loom app version and just record it on my phone. I've done that too, and that works great. Like you can keep it personal, real, authentic. Does not need to be overly produced or anything. But then, the key is to really engage them even further, and then eventually to phase 3, you want to get them coming back and have something to upsell for them. So I do have a student support center, which has been key for this. And you have something similar with SPI. You have the SPI Pro, the membership of the Academy. Yep. So very similar. And I'm using Circle as well. I love Circle for my student center, which is a support center. So I let people know they're going to be supported in there. And then we do monthly Q&As with me. So again, it's high touch at first, and I let them know how supported they'll be, which really builds that trust and that likability. And then once they get through the course, hopefully they get an awesome result. And then we hit phase 3, which is where they hopefully either buy more courses, or for me, get coaching in my coaching community.
Awesome. How are you promoting that next step? Is it only after people complete, and is that automated, or are you reaching out again personally? I'd love to know the sales sequence from existing course student to the next level.
It's kind of 3 areas. Initially in my welcome video, I do mention that they get a student discount. So they'll hear about that twice within a couple days. I'll send them a video, or depending on when they get my welcome video, it might be within a week. I try to do them once a week. So within the first week, let's say, they'll get the automated sequence, so they know they have a student discount. And I send that immediately. Once they join a course, I send them an email that says, now as an existing student, you're a part of my student loyalty program and you get this special student discount for additional courses. So they know about that. And then when I come in with my welcome video, I just remind them about their student discount, because we all need to be reminded on stuff. We're all busy and scattered often, particularly if people building their businesses and learning web design. So I let them know multiple times they know about that. And then the third piece where I always remind them about the student discount to encourage them to buy more courses is in these monthly Q&As that I do for my students. And I'll often talk about that in my podcast and free content as well, but I'm much more intentional when somebody actually becomes a customer. I want them to know, hey, you are a valued student of mine. My motto is to not be a cable company, meaning I don't want to give the best deals to new customers. I want to give my best deals to existing customers. I can't encourage that enough. And that's been key. I just let them know multiple times over, they have a student discount and they can always use it on any number of courses moving forward. And then if people generally go to 2 to 3 courses of mine, I let them know that there is the option to upgrade to the bundle, which is all of my courses with a big saving if they want to do all of them.
Which I like that.
My courses, it may be different for some course creators if you have topics that are a little more scattered. Mine is kind of like a little mini, actually one of my students called it a little mini web design academy. So it takes you through learning web design, SEO, design, the tech side of things, all the way to building your business and starting a hosting and maintenance plan to build recurring income. So it's really the start to finish freelancer academy. Ooh, man, I may have just come up with a branding name for that.
I like that.
But yeah, there we go. But that's been a biggie for me. And I will say my bundle, Pat, was over 50% of my income in 2021. So a lot of my current students upgraded. And this just speaks to the power of what we've talked about so far, building that trust with free content, making an amazing first impression, giving them some results, and then having an upsell opportunity for them with a lot of people call it like a 10X product, something that is way more expensive than a $100 course. And a lot of my students upgrade to that. And that's my goal. And then the third piece to that is to get them into my membership for coaching, to keep them engaged monthly.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk pricing really quick. How many courses do you have and what are the average price points of them?
I have 9 web design courses ranging from the low end. I have one course at 67, but it's just kind of an entry course, all the way to 500 for my business course. All my courses do end in 7s. I don't know what your thoughts are on pricing, Pat. I know this is something that will be debated to the end of time with pricing, but I like to have recurring type of products and services end in 9s, and I like to have one-off courses end in 7s. I don't quite know, but it's worked for me so far.
It works for you, man.
So,
I don't.
Again, everyone asks me about pricing. I know there's no right or wrong, but yeah, my courses range from 67 to 97 on the low end. Most of them are in the 297 range, and then my top one is 497. So all those 9 courses vary in between that range.
And how much is it to get the bundle?
The bundle is 14. Well, I just contradicted myself because that's $14.99. Although I did that because essentially what I did was I added all my courses up, and it cost, I think right now, all of them at their current price ranges are like $2,140 something. And then I just took a flat 30% off. That way, if somebody wants to purchase the bundle or upgrade, they essentially would just get 30% off across the board. That's what made it easier for me figuring this out math wise. Yeah. You don't want to make me think about math too long. So that's like what worked out for me. Yeah. $1,500 for everything. Yeah.
So the idea being that a person gets in, they see 1 or 2 of the courses and they go, wow, I like all of this. And then they get hit with the bundle option. It's almost a no-brainer because they would be saving money. Instead of just buying everyone individually, they can sort of get them all.
Exactly. And pricing is really going to depend on your type of customer and the programs and the courses. Like some of my courses are just 2 to 3 hours to get through. Some of them are massive. My business course is a huge course. I mean, I could probably charge double or triple what I have for that. But I know that my audience, a lot of them are just starting their business. Budgets are fairly tight. They're learning a lot. I wanted to keep it affordable, but also at an investment range that they're willing to invest and it's going to put some skin in the game. I didn't want to have a business course for $97, but a $500 investment. I've found for my market to be a really kind of happy medium, because there are similar programs that are $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, but I'm eventually going to add more courses that are a little more high level and a little more business centric and scaling centric. And those I'll be able to charge a more premium because my client base will already be making, a certain amount to be able to invest in that.
And then your membership, which is a recurring payment, which you encourage all your students to join, I imagine, but also your bundle. Like, what's the price point for joining the membership and getting access to you for coaching and things like that?
That is $99 a month. Or you can go annually and it's only $9.99. So you save, I think it's like
a couple months.
A couple $100 if you go annually. And this is the key. I've really, really enjoyed online community and learning more and becoming an online community builder. Mm-hmm. I've found that, again, let me just reiterate the problem with most courses, particularly if they are one-off courses. You do not have a repeated customer. So the goal as an online course creator and having some sort of consistent, stable income is to build that recurring income. So with this membership, this is my coaching community essentially. And those two words are key with this: coaching community. It is not one-on-one coaching with me like video talks. Even at my level, I don't have the time to be able to do that. But there is a coaching aspect. When somebody joins my membership, my web design club, they get to chat with me directly through Circle's private messaging. So that's a biggie. I always let every new member know, and on the landing page, that a big perk of joining this is that you get the chance to private message me as much as you want. And I was terrified, Pat, about starting this because I thought, like right now I have 87 people in my membership, which is not huge, but by golly, we're getting close to that being a six-figure business now. In fact, my goal for this year in 2022 is I should be able to hit six figures within just a few months as of right now. But I was terrified of having 87 people messaging me every day. But just like the case of many subscription services, it's usually just a few people that are asking me ongoing questions. And I actually have to encourage my members to message me. Like, I want to know, I want to build deeper relationships with this core group of people. They are my tribe. Most of them are students, but again, it's been interesting. I think partly because of my live streams, people are wanting coaching first and they want immediate direction and my insight, and then going into the courses and really refining their business, which is awesome. It works out either way. But yeah, so it's $99 a month. I often will have some sort of promo or offer for people to join. But yeah, the price range is right around there. And it's just been a really seamless experience for me as a course creator to have one-off courses that are targeted to a certain subject, and then a membership, which is coaching for me. But again, the second piece to that is community. So it's so much more than a free Facebook group where I probably don't even need to share why I don't want to have a free which I actually do. I have a free Facebook group. It's a support group for web designers. It's 24,000 people now. I rarely log into that anymore. I started it back in 2016. It was kind of my group initially, and now it's just become this other beast that I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with. But having a premium community really gives you the opportunity to control the experience with Circle. I'm sure that's why you chose Circle for SPI Pro. You can really control the entire experience. You can do so much with it. You can embed it and integrate it with different platforms and websites. So it's been a really, really nice addition to my business, and keeping the people who want to stay in touch with me and want to get coaching, to keep them there. Again, that engagement and keep them coming back for more.
Nice, dude. Well done. You've come a long way even since episode 456, but even thinking about that interview we did together and how you started out and the podcast and its impact on your business. And now you're making these really smart decisions. And now you have a membership it's very in alignment with what we've done, right? We have the courses. We don't have the bundle yet, but we like that idea. In fact, we're exploring it. And then also
I would buy it. I have 4 of your courses right now. I would 100% buy the bundle if it was an option.
Thank you. And then, of course, as a member of SPI Pro, you know that we're doing community as well. And it's just great to see you in there. And thank you again for all the inspiration today. I think this is going to be really helpful to a lot of people. And thank you for making it clear. And it's obvious your favorite number is 3 because everything that you talk about
everything's 3
in threes, right? So any final words of advice for the creators out there, especially ones getting into courses and providing value to their audience in that way? What advice would you offer them now that you're on this side of it all?
Yeah, if I could go back when I first started doing courses, I would have encouraged myself to focus on existing customers, existing students. Again, going back to what I just said a little bit ago, I want to be the opposite of a cable company. I don't want to give the best deals and to put all my focus and attention on new people. It's important. It's important to attract new customers, but I found if you really, really work at making the experience amazing for your current customers, your current students, they will buy from you over and over. And if you offer an upsell that is recurring, like a membership or coaching or a community, a lot of people will do it. And I delayed doing this because I just wondered, like, who's going to pay monthly? I already have a free Facebook group. People already ask me questions. Who's going to pay for this? Well, I found out a lot of people have, and I really haven't even marketed my community that much. That's going to be a biggie for 2022. In fact, it's interesting, Pat. When you interviewed me for the first episode that I was on, I had started my membership that month. I actually had started it like 3 weeks before you talked to me. So now that we're well over a year into running this community and I built it up, it's been a solid income stream for me that's consistent. I can't recommend everybody enough to seriously consider having a premium add-on, a membership or a community along with your courses. But if I could say, just of all the stuff we've talked about, I know it's a lot. Some people are probably super inspired, but they're like, I don't even know where to start with all this. Like, I can't imagine. What do I do first? If I could give somebody a challenge to do one thing, it would be a personal video to your next customer or your next student. Just give yourself a test. Do it once a week. Even if you have to do it at scale and there's a lot of people, just try it out and see what results you get and see what type of responses you'll get. I guarantee it's going to stoke the fire to keep that going. That's what I would do. If I could do one 100%. Thing, it'd be those personal videos.
I mean, there's a reason why I wrote about it in Superfans, doing these personalized videos. They do make an impact. And even if it's specifically for not a customer to sign up, but one who has already signed up, like you said, promoting to your existing customers and making them feel special is definitely a way to go. So looking forward to seeing the numbers grow, Josh. Thank you again for coming on today. Where can people listen to your podcast, find your YouTube channel, and check out all the other things you have going on?
My website is joshhall.co if you want to just go there and see everything that's going on. Although if there is anyone here listening who is interested in my courses and just want to see what it's all about, or particularly for web designers who might be here or webpreneurs, you can go to joshhall.co/SPI and I will have a certain something there for you, for anyone who's interested in courses. And Pat, I just want to say again, while I have you, I just want to publicly thank you for all of the content you've produced and what you've done with your brand. You have been a massive impact on me and my family. I mean, I feel really fortunate to have gone full time with courses and have found you right around that time, because your podcasting course got me completely set up with my podcast, which is huge. Webinar course was a game changer. I went through Amped Up podcasting. I'm actually going through email course right now. So thank you, dude. You really, everything that you've learned and implemented and shared has filtered right down to me. And hopefully I can filter what I've learned and put my own spin on stuff to everybody else. So thank you, man.
Thank you. That's what it's about. And, you know, we're all paying it forward, and you took the action. So congratulations to you, and looking forward to the next chat. Thanks again, Josh.
Sounds great, man. Thanks.
All right. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Josh Hall. Again, you can find him at joshhall.co if you're curious about his online courses. As he said, joshhall.co/SPI. And I cannot wait to chat with him again, because he's continuing to innovate. And as you can tell, it's not a huge business, but he's supporting his family. He's able to continue to work 20 to 25 hours a week. And this is exactly the kind of business that I know a lot of you who are watching or listening to this right now want. Balance is important to you. You don't need to work 60 hours a week in order to do very well. And he's created these new income streams as a result of new courses and a membership. And he's about to hit 6 figures in earnings with his membership now, and selling to his current customers to provide more value. It's about going 1 inch wide, 1 mile deep, meaning continuing to serve your customers in different ways and in deeper ways versus just always trying to create new customers and expand outwards. So well done, Josh. I appreciate you. And if you want the show notes and all the links that we mentioned here in this episode, feel free to head to smartpassiveincome.com/session563. Again, that's smartpassiveincome.com/session563. Thank you so much for checking out this episode, and I look forward to reading your reviews on Apple and or Spotify. Make sure to give the show a quick review if you have the opportunity to do so. And I look forward to serving you next week. Make sure that actually you hit that record button so that you don't miss out on all the great content and the success stories that are coming your way, as well as actionable tactical advice to help you as a creator, as an online course producer, as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, whatever it is that you do to serve your audience. We are here to serve you. My name is Pat Flynn. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And as always, peace out and Team Flynn for the win. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at smartpassiveincome.com. I'm your host, Pat Flynn. Our senior producer is Sarah Jane Hess. Our series producer is David Grabowski. And our executive producer is Matt Gartland. Sound and video editing by Sean West Media. The Smart Passive Income Podcast is a production of SPI Media. We'll catch you in the next session.